But the thing that people don't really understand about that is that satanic panic is directly correlated to the monoculture, right? Like a centralized media culture. There's so many different algorithms and fragments of everything that there's no centralized culture, right? The dream of 1999 of become a celebrity, go to the Model America, find me at Model America, all of that, that's all on your phone. That's all downloadable right now. So it makes fame and celebrity seem like the least interesting currency.
You're on Team Human, Conscious Intervention in the Machine, coming to you alive from the legendary Strand bookstore in New York City, surviving by any means necessary in the hostile economy of New York in 2025. One of the last great places to find the others and realize you are not alone. Playing for Team Human today, Canadian pop artist, author, journalist, magician, and CEO of Void Collective, Alex Kazemi. Alex and I, yay, woo! Alex and I will be talking about where the counterculture can seek refuge when even nihilism is not a safe stance, as well as his new, dangerously fucked up book, The New Millennium Boys. It's time to ride roughshod over the brutal and inhumane. I'm Douglas Rushkoff, and we're all on Team Human.
What's up, New York?
Hey. So as we sit before this standing room only crowd and birth the paperback edition of New Millennium Boys, I thought I would share my blurb of the book for anyone who is unfamiliar with its tone and contents. This is what I said. There is some twisted shit in this book that will likely fuck with your head and break your heart. Remember Woodstock 99 and how a sick, profit-driven media culture pushed boys to their worst impulses? Think Larry Clark or Bret Easton Ellis by way of Charles Bukowski or J.G. Ballard. These kids are not all right. Kazemi's prose produces the same visceral response as an early Tarantino movie. Proceed with caution.
Rushkoff, would you see that like the incel boys are no different than the like ICP Merchants of Cool era dudes that were in the documentary?
I think they're different.
Okay.
I feel like there was a sick, involuntary innocence to the rapo culture of 1999. That they were it was a mindless rage in an effort, in some ways, to escape digestion by the corporate machine. And the sickness today is more a performative effort to get noticed by the very same machine.
Yeah, and I think that there was also a lot of encouragement by the corporations that those boys would act that way and normalized it as well, which is what I found really fascinating in my book and through watching your documentaries.
So let's talk about 1999.
Hell yeah.
And 2000. And what I guess, where did this come from? Where did this fascination with this energy of young male 1999?
Well, because I've been so fascinated by my generation's obsession with like Y2K and 90s nostalgia to like I've never seen like anything historically where there's this like consistent fetishization and obsession, like as if humanity peaked in 2000. Like a lot of people feel that way, millennials who have like, who are the last people who have like the cloud storage of the monoculture era, you know? So like I feel like the thing that really fascinated me was like, let's look at the dark side of this. It's not just like Britney Spears and Claire's, you know? Like let's unveil what was really happening. And for boys especially, because of the tragedies with Woodstock and Columbine directly.
So, and how old were you when that was all happening?
Probably like 5.
Right.
Yeah. So I have like subconscious memories, but I remember like, so basically in the late 90s and 2000s, there was the, birth of the teen movie genre in such an extreme way, and I feel like the era that I grew up on, like on Tumblr and stuff like that, as like a millennial teenager, we were kind of taught to like self-stylize or art direct our lives like Harmony Korine or like Larry Clark movies with like 35 millimeter cameras and all this type of stuff, like Rookie Meg and all of this, and it really annoyed me. And I really wanted to like look at the darker aspects of that and why like even Gen Z is so obsessed with this era.
Right, and so you create this protagonist, Brad, who's basically an upper middle class suburban kid who's drawn into the sort of skateboard, Limp Bizkit frenzy.
Yeah. And I think it was for me like there's always like drama about like male fiction, right? Like where are the male writers? Like all this like this kind of thing. So I wanted to make a novel that was very unapologetically male. And explore the psychology of like young male characters in a way that empathized in the way that maybe like female filmmakers like Catherine Hardwicke did with a movie like 13. Like my characters are fucked up, but they're also not uncommon. And what I found to be really interesting is that like, you know, with the content warning and all that stupid shit, like I feel like there are things that were happening in the news and headlines with like fraternities and things like that. Like documentary reality was so much more severe than fiction. So I thought I had the permission to explore it without any drama.
Right. I mean, you weren't doing it for the exploitation value.
No, not like Harmony Korine or something like that.
Right.
No.
Oh, well, I don't know. That
no, I love Spring Breakers. It's my favorite movie ever. But yeah.
Right. I mean, the weird thing about going back to 1999, even though this stuff was evil in some ways, you know, it kind of broke rock and roll. It sort of broke counterculture in some ways, is that this was the pure energy which, instead of being transformed or metabolized, has ended up over the years being marshaled and leveraged towards the worst.
Yeah. And I think like as you talk about like the like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails era of like masculinity, testosterone, it was presented in like a gothic, glamorous way. But like when I studied everything about that era and reading message boards and stuff like that, they were like no different than the frat boys who were beating them up. You know what I mean? Like they were just in the shadow of that.
Well, right, like the Columbine kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their diaries and those crime documents were like the biggest inspo on the book, really, because I wanted to show that spiral in a way that was not really seen in Columbine-related media. It's always like, oh, they like the Gus Van Sant movie, or they're like gay or whatever, right? Like Elephant, and it's like we need to go deeper than that.
Right.
I love you guys. I'm sorry.
No, so but the sense that you get then is, oh, these guys who are doing these whatever awful, you know, white male toxic things are not the strong males; they're the weak ones.
I think that was a big problem because I have a lot of empathy for why that dialogue came up and this like kind of gender studies interpretation of things that bled into the culture with social justice and things like that. Like there's very valid, you know, responses to what's wrong about the world, but I feel like the way that men took it and internalized it as like demonization makes people like fetishize that type of freedom, right? On the Man Show and Adam Carolla and all of that, they view that as freedom. They want to go back to that in that era.
Right.
You know? It's looked at with fondly.
But in its original form of 1999, 2000-ness, this is, and the world that your character's drawn into, it's more like, gosh, what was that movie with like Crispin Glover, River's Edge? You know, it's more like
James Duval's in it, I think.
Right. There's like you know animal mutilation and you know this sort of you know white teen violence that's like more from that era of the sort of satanic panic than what we think of now.
Yeah, like West Memphis 3 stuff too as well. Remember?
Right.
Yeah, that whole you know, but the thing that people don't really understand about that is that satanic panic is directly correlated to the monoculture, right? Like a centralized media culture. There's so many different algorithms and fragments of everything that there's no centralized culture, right? So the kids in my book that they're, you know, they have the luxury to be like angry about what they see on MTV. You watch like all these Woodstock footage, and they're genuinely angry about NSYNC being like on after Limp Bizkit videos, and it's like a war, you know, it's like a real thing. And then you think of that in the context of this era, you know, where people are thinking about Luigi Mangione and tariffs and things like that. It's quite vapid and superficial, the sort of freedoms of the new millennium, of the ignorance of less information.
My name is Douglas Rushkoff, and I like smelling Kobe dryer sheets because they're like these essential oils. It's like going to a mushroom ceremony in a kind of a cool New Age retreat in Woodstock. That's the feeling of Kobe dryer sheets. They are at once, I'm sure, sanitary and good for your laundry, but they're also quite psychedelic. And when you're tripping, you don't want to worry about whether the things you're doing are like screwing up the planet or hurting labor or leading into giant landfills of crap. And you don't have to worry about that when you're tripping on these dryer sheets. So join me. Right. I mean, it was interesting. I was kind of trying to talk about 1999 and 2000 itself before trying to compare it to now.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? Because we're in this. It's hard to just to see that as anything but the seeds. But you know, the kids in your book are videotaping what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So this is the old days of the camcorder. There's no YouTube really yet.
Yeah.
And what are they when they're taping violent antics? And it does remind me a little bit of kids or something. I mean, what are they taping it for, do you feel like?
Well, so it becomes real, so that they can feel like that it's happening. That I grew up with as a teenager on like Tumblr and stuff, and there were all these like gore blogs and like I was always so angry about this like desensitization of people, and I'm like Fiona Apple. I feel everything. Like I'm so annoying. You know what I mean? Like I was like, so I wanted to like kind of show this kind of like numbness, and this numbness that was really making me angry. And when I was a teenager, I'd always talk about it with Brett because he's so sensitive, and I kind of was like, okay, like I'm gonna be very unapologetic about how I show the violence, because this is like the fast cut world these kids are living in, right? They want, if I record this, I will be on the TV. If I put in an AV cable, I will be on, but connected to like TikTok, Snapshot culture, all of that. I see it as, this is the beginning, the mini DV tape, right? Like Paris Hilton sex tape. That was like the biggest inspo for me.
Right. I mean, right. The Paris Hilton sex tape.
Yeah.
The MTV Spring Break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even they're like, this is like Beavis and Butthead with weapons. Right?
Exactly. It's like this was the violation of privacy. Like the Pam and Tommy sex tape, right? That was so shocking for the American public, that our home videos could be connected through a FireWire cable on an Angel Fire website or leaked or things like that. And that sort of, I don't want to spoil the book, but it's be careful of who you trust. And it was really about like how during cancel culture, because I worked on the book, unfortunately, for like a decade for whatever. Can you say something? Remind me what I was saying.
Going back to, I mean, we're talking about the period before Snapchat, before Tumblr, where
okay, yes, it's the FireWire cable and the leaking of home videotapes and things like that. And with the cancel culture, there was this big anxiety of any of us, like all the people we've trusted for like all our lives have footage of us, possibly saying racist things, possibly saying, homophobic things, misogynistic things from when we were younger and dumb, or even doing bad things. And there was this whole kind of cancel culture that we saw, like everything leaking. So that directly correlated like the climax of my book, because I wanted everyone to feel like, what does everyone have of you? What would that feel like if your image was tarnished, your Instagram profile, your Substack, all of this, whatever, like the way that you perceive yourself. What if someone ruined that in a minute with footage? That could happen to any of us in this room.
Right. Well, luckily not to me.
They're going to edit that,
because
right?
the shit that I did happened behind the 7-Eleven at the dumpster before anyone had a fucking camcorder, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Fuck yeah.
It's just like we did lines on
but I was filming. I think I was
Yeah.
filming what was happening behind the 7-Eleven dumpster, because I had an iPhone as a teenager.
Right.
But
But still, that Super 8 would be hard to unearth today, thankfully. But, at least we got to do our shit by ourselves. But, it's like, I feel like the era that you're talking about kind of ended with sort of two things. It sort of ended with Columbine and the Unabomber.
Yeah.
There's sort of this peak that's like, that's the rapes of Woodstock '99 kind of were a turning point for a lot of us too.
Yeah.
That there was sort of that, and Columbine and Unabomber. It was like, oh fuck, there's something.
But then there was also this saccharine aspect that was going on with like Britney Spears and Mandy Moore, and like Mandy Moore's videos were directed by like a porn director, like when she was like 15.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was a lot of dark underbelly stuff of like the Weinstein era, and all those people were still in power. So if you go back and watch those things, there's a lot of like cryptic, like messaging.
Right. I mean, that's what I was trying to get to the heart of that in my own way in 1999 with Merchants of Cool.
Best documentary, everyone, please watch it.
No.
Yeah.
But what I was looking at was the way that the MTV spin cycle was creating these two kind of archetypes for boys and girls.
Yeah,
right. This feedback loop creating for girls was the Britney Spears archetype, which we called the midriff.
Yeah.
And then the mooks were the boys, the sort of jackass, smash the beer bottle on your head.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And they're equally, I mean, dark may not be the right word, but they're equally painful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for Gen Z and younger millennials, we got to live through the acceleration of those archetypes and tropes. Like they got more and more hyperreal, more and more hypersexual, and it just became like this like alien animated form of expression that's like not real. But it really did start in the like hyperreal 1999 MTV consumerist culture of that like sexual liberation, freedom, and all of that. Yeah.
The part I've always had trouble figuring out is, are they trying to get on MTV, or are they trying to escape from the mainstreamization of MTV?
Well, that's the thing. Like, my character thinks he's so anti-culture, and he's just a parody of the Marilyn Manson fanboy type, just because he's different than a guy who loves NSYNC or Backstreet Boys or whatever, and he thinks he's cooler because of that. He's still a victim, that he can't see that. He's too young to see that. So, yeah.
Right. Because it's this era when, I don't know if you all remember, I mean, MTV used to have all these really kind of high-paid market researchers getting like street intelligence.
Yeah, cool hunters.
Cool hunters, right.
Yeah.
Who would love to be embedded with the characters of your book.
That's the thing. Like, there couldn't be cool hunters today because, like, I personally believe there is no pop culture. It's a very controversial topic, but I don't believe there is, like, a pop culture because pop culture requires a centralized media and everyone being programmed to their subconscious mind and looking at the same place. There are a lot of people who don't even know who, like, Tate McRae is. You know what I mean?
Right, but we do. I mean, if we want to hit the we do have the Taylor Swift.
She surpassed
some rule.
She surpassed all of it. Yeah.
Right. And actually and does that thing, I mean, that thing that works so well under fascism, right? Which is, but speak as if you're speaking individually to each person, but you're speaking to everybody at once.
Yeah, the Eras Tour was like major magic pop brainwash for sure.
Right. So how do you think that the sort of the privately filmed horrors that are going on in this book sort of transformed into the more performative versions of them in today's time?
Yeah, because people just want to do things that are edgy and cool. You know what I mean? So I feel like the problem is now is we're all on like an escalation scale of threshold of like a higher thresholds of content and darker content. So if you want to be darker, you have to do the more intense thing, but it just becomes looking stupid and animated and sloppy, But I find that like even the aesthetics that are in this book, like I don't know, like think about this, like a girl in like Idaho could see a Gregoraki screenshot on her TikTok page and have no idea what Nowhere is, no idea what the Doom Generation is, but go and buy that outfit. They don't really have any connection to anything.
Well, they get the vibe.
The vibe.
Yeah.
It's my aesthetic.
Yeah. But it's interesting. So back in the time of Merchants of Cool, what I could freak out teens with was showing them, this video is actually a Sprite commercial. Or Limp Bizkit, the members of Limp Bizkit are actually senior vice presidents at MTV, and they go, oh my God, they're sellouts. And then 20 years later, whenever I make Generation Like, and kids don't even know what the term selling out means.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, exactly. There is no selling out. And there's also no. I feel like a lot of Gen Zs don't like gatekeeping. Like like they want everything to be public. There's no like idea of like this is special. Let's keep it safe. Let's keep a secret society of people. They want everything public and accessed.
But so this culture that we're talking about in the book, which is very embedded in its period, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
like Tamagotchis and stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like a memory tour
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
us of all these specific things
Yeah.
from that period. You come forward to now, and these kids, I guess, move through 4chan and Gamergate,
Yeah.
Bannon, and the UFC
Yeah.
to like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, and I think that's because they have no like Marilyn Manson or Nine Inch Nails or things like that. They want to be teen rebels, right? This is what they see as contrarian and cool, right? So that's why they want to.
But they're being teen rebels through the media partner of the president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not edgy or interesting.
That's not ICP and Detroit.
No.
Soda pop at each other.
Well, this is the thing. I think like sports and politics do have a centralized media, and I think that's why it's popular and why people adapt their identity to those things, because there's no more pop culture to be like, oh, I'm a goth, I'm indie, I'm all these things. So they're like, oh, I'm right wing, I'm conservative. This is my aesthetic. I listen to these podcasts. What's up?
So let's talk about this. A centralized culture, then, as you're describing it, is an unhealthy thing.
I don't know anymore because I'm thinking like, did you ever watch Josie and the Pussycats?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were probably inspired by merchants for that.
Well.
Yeah, probably.
Nice.
Yeah. I feel like, what was so great about that movie is that you could capture an exact moment of the hyperreal Viacom brainwash, right? Whereas right now, you couldn't capture that with youth culture because they have a bazillion different memes and they're seeing different things every day. And you can talk to one person, and they're like, oh, this Twitch streamer has 10 million followers. And you're like, who the fuck is that? Because I'm watching this YouTuber who has 5 million followers. You have no idea who they are. So it's like the dream of 1999 of become a celebrity, go to the Model America, find me at Model America, all of that. That's all on your phone. That's all downloadable right now. So it makes fame and celebrity seem like the least interesting currency.
Kobe dryer sheets are only the second dryer sheet I ever used. I used one dryer sheet in college, I think it was, or grad school. That was this awful thing that made my clothes smell bad for like a year and probably put plastics in me and contributed to some of my problems today. But these are like, it's like going into a health food store in their like little soap and essential oil section, and it's cotton and nice and makes you feel good about yourself and ultimately good about the planet because you're using a completely biodegradable, environmentally friendly made product, which is slowly transforming the entire military industrial complex into a pro-human, pro-social, pro-planet playground. Kobe. Right. And we end up with, in 1999, we might have the Unabomber,
Yeah.
who everyone goes, ugh, about. And now we have Luigi Mangione
Yeah.
doing basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's a friggin' hero
Heartthrob for people.
for many.
Yeah, and I feel like even a lot of I feel like the reaction to Luigi Mangione is connected to the numbness that people feel when they're on social media. Like they just want to participate in the meme so that they can feel a part of the collective culture. So they may not even know what Luigi did, or just they're just like, oh, he's hot, he's a murderer, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so vapid and fast and numb.
But it seems like the same thing. Like how a cool weird band, or even the Clash, ends up sold at the mall.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like, oh fuck, they're on Columbia. They're pop. What? How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
But I feel like when you get school shooters becoming Andrew Tate or the Unabomber becoming Mangione. It's sort of the same transformation of, so the pop culture machine can digest anything. It can even digest, the Bannon Gamergate, and you get a president out of it.
Yeah. But I feel like even I'm sure there are some people like who don't even know who Luigi is. But I feel like a lot of people know who Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold are.
But everyone knows who Trump is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's who these kids grow up into.
Yeah. So these are their, like Elon Musk, right? I guess he's the monoculture, right? Because maybe there's not one person in this room who doesn't know who he is. So maybe like it's like a plutocracy, like a few select people are involved, which is why I think like people who are Generation X and, were on TV in the 2000s or the 90s or things like that, they have this glow or iconography to them because they were a part of that subconscious mind mass download that you just do not see anymore. Like people, it's very hard for people to break out in the arts, which is why I like that Substack is like this way for people to rebel against traditional media, writers and journalists and stuff, and like take ownership of their creative control.
But so you can look at this as the origin story of a collective supervillain.
Yeah.
That's around today.
Yeah.
So if it was it went from the parking the behind the 7-Eleven to the video camera of your characters and school shooters to the Andrew Tate and
to live streaming school shootings. Didn't someone do that? Yeah. So, Periscope shooting.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, and to this culture as part of mainstream boy machismo stuff.
Yeah.
Then is the counterculture like love? Is the counterculture? Do you know what I mean? If this becomes the mainstream, then is what's happening behind the 7-Eleven now like a cult?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it's so funny when people are like think they're an interesting person because they're a nihilist or a hedonist. It's like that is the most obvious response to this world. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? That is not interesting. So I think of the people who, want to learn the mystery school teachings, the masters who've survived chaos for millions of decades and centuries and want to know how to survive this stuff. I see a lot of them getting into the occult, magic, non-traditional spiritualities to create the tools how to handle this world, because it's like, what are we going to do? Everyone would want to shoot themselves in the head if they open X every morning.
Right. I mean, and that, and if we read this book, we would think that you're like some tough, crazy person. Just like if you read American Psycho, you think Bret Easton Ellis is probably shooting up heroin or something. And you're both little softy sweetie pies.
He did shoot up heroin back in the day.
Well, but he was still a softy sweetie pie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I think like I think I would encourage like a lot of authors and artists and aspiring, writers or whatever to empathize with what they don't understand instead of being angry at it. Like try to step into the shoes of what's making you upset instead of, just being the reaction, And so for me, it's not like I identify with school shooters or identify with Blink-182 fans or identify with, these things. I mean, I did at one point in my life, but I think that, people should definitely do what makes them uncomfortable through art. Like, I don't know. I feel like there should be no rules right now with creating, but apparently there are.
Right. So I am really interested in how this sort of cynicism and nihilism, even at its best, like an MTV culture, that would be like, what was her name? Daria?
Yeah.
Sort of like elevated cynicism.
And downtown?
Downtown? Yeah. There was some.
Yeah.
There was some. Yeah. But if cynicism and that nihilism isn't the path, then some sort of optimism and love and magical softness sort of is the...
If people will allow themselves to get to that place. Usually people are so far gone by the climate. I mean, if you're waking up every morning reading these headlines and all these things, but it's difficult because it does affect our lives and it shows up in the material world. But how are we going to survive the rest of the 2020s in this state of adrenaline, chaos, fear, anxiety, 24/7?
I know.
This is not a happy planet to be on, but like, it's not all sunshine.
No, I mean, and the thing I've been getting the most shit for lately is on Team Human. I've been arguing you take your eyes off the figure on the TV and get back to the ground of connection with other people. Make eye contact, meet people in your neighborhood, do mutual aid. And people are like, oh, but we've got to, you got to stay focused on the battle. And I'm wondering, how do we engender how do we engender a spirit of magic, hope, and optimism in a world like one with the news that we're seeing, and the kinds of leadership that we see on TV? And is it irresponsible to do that?
I think you have to challenge the instincts that are being normalized. Everyone always talks about we were obviously all groomed into smartphone addictions, and this normalization of being chronically online and all of this type of stuff. But it all really, at the end of the day, is a choice. It's more uncomfortable for people to actually leave the hive mind, leave the group chat, leave these things behind, because they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be a lone wolf. And I think if you want to have a sense of sanity, you need to make big fucking boundaries with these tech companies and the technology they're giving us. You have to set your own boundaries. I get a lot of people's money comes from working online and things like that, but again, there's no reason for this.
I know, you put in all your emails, you have no social media whatsoever.
Yeah, fuck that.
So don't expect me to fucking IG or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not here.
I'm not doing that
Right.
but also because I love Cal Newport and I believe that you can do it, and I want to be a demonstration of it. You can be out there at the Strand selling a book with no social media account, and as much as that might upset my publicist sometimes, but it's what feels right for me. And I think if everyone did more what feels right for them, rather than participate in the group mind of what a publisher told you in a group meeting, be the change.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, Cal Newport is a computer scientist and an author who's written a bunch of books on
Deep work.
On how to survive in this.
Please, yeah, it's really important.
In this world. So it's interesting. So this ritual of taking a little mammal author out of his little private world, and once every book you drag them out into it's the old school, right? You drag them out, the real author, right? Not this whatever people call themselves, writers. People, just because you can type doesn't mean you're an author, right? But you take a real author out of his little private world, whatever out you're doing there in your quiet little mammalian cage, and we drag you out in front of the public, right? And do this ritual of here he is, and you speak, and then you get to go back. We'll let you go back.
I want to do that.
You go back. You can go back in your dark little place very soon. We'll let you go back into your cage. You're going back on your wheel and produce more books. It's all fine. But it feels sort of microcosmic of the role of the artist and the occultist in any society.
Yeah.
And in some ways it feels like, oh my God, we're under fascism, it's all bad and whatever, and now how can you be a writer, how can you be a thinker and all that? But
people don't publish books.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
Spinoza and Maimonides and Aristotle and Socrates, Socrates got killed for God, or he killed himself, but he was going to get killed. They all lived, they were intellectuals under Genghis Khan and Alexander and Caligula and Alexander the Great. So here, how do you... what's your advice for other weird, magical, occultist little mammal humans to maintain a safe, I hate to call it safe space, but I mean it differently, to maintain a safe nook or cranny in this weird-ass society?
Be extremely careful with what you consume. Think of it as a mind diet. What you put in your subconscious mind is energy, and it's also going to come out as your ideas and output. And so I think that is a huge thing that people need to do, is protect your mind. Wear a mind condom.
You mean I should protect my mind as carefully as I consider whether to put a new app on my iPhone?
Yeah, absolutely. If something becomes popular on the digi world, app world, question it. Question it. I was very cynical of TikTok until I had to use it to my advantage in ways, the thing that I I do is that I have people out there for me who are like, that people should do this too, like doing that job for me so that I don't have to be there and present for it. You know, like, so delegate these things that upset you, these tasks, to a person who maybe it's their divine path to be on Twitter all day or TikTok all day.
Right, we used to call it a Shabbos goy, is what the Jews call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tom, the founder of Kobe. Did you know your dryer sheets are made from plastic and filled with forever chemicals? And that over 50 billion go into landfills every year. That's why we invented Kobe, spelled C-O-B-I. That's C-O for cotton and B-I for biodegradable. Kobe dryer sheets are the world's first and only 100% cotton, 100% biodegradable dryer sheet. Truly an innovation inspired by nature with all the performance you could ask for in a dryer sheet. Save 10% on your first order at KobeDryerSheets.com. That's KobeDryerSheets.com.
It's tricky though. So the artist, if the artist occultist has always been in this position, right, and needs to, and you know, is obligated to protect their soul, their instrument, their subconscious, is that enough? Is it okay? For me, the guilt is always there of like, oh, but if you're protecting your instrument and all that, you're not helping fight the bad things out there.
I feel like if you're an artist, you're going to do more for people by making them feel less alone, creating a resonance through how you're creating a portrait of how you see the world. And I feel like that's more than anything that you could do with a tweet or a TikTok or an Instagram. Books and movies and albums, they live forever. And I think that creating final and finished works is really important.
Right.
As well.
But do you hit the streets when there's a protest? Do you?
No.
No,
I do not. I have never done that in my life. I think like I empathize with it. I try to understand. I think like there's that like quote of like RuPaul saw someone drowning and he sent them like good light from the balcony or something. Like I wouldn't do that, but you know what I mean? Like it's like you can send the energy out and I pray for this outcome, but there's nothing I could do. I mean, I would love to be a part of the resistance or whatever, but it's just not my path.
So your path has involved magic, right? You have a magical history, an earlier book that I read of yours, you know, Pop Magic, that got Instagrammed or tweeted or something by Madonna.
Yeah.
Back in her magical phase.
Yeah, she changed everything with doing that. Yeah.
I mean, it started to occur to me as I revisited that magic is moving from this very kind of personal practice, kind of maybe to a collective one.
Which is what I kind of like of like the Aeon of Horus era. You know, like I like meeting someone and be like, what's your sign? What's your rising? You know, like there's people are waking up to that kind of the power of seeing the coincidences and synchronicities and things like that. And I like that, you know, manifesting is a part of our culture now and in dialogue and things like that. So I do think we live in we're starting to live more and more in a pop magic kind of society. It started in 2020 when the book came out. Ooh.
Right. Oh, maybe you facilitated that.
Yeah, wow.
Let me add one more thing, because there's another aspect of your career. For most of us as writers, we sort of wrote about pop culture to pay the bills, because back in the day, you could get $2 or $3 a word for writing for friggin' GQ or Penthouse or something. And you still do... But now you do it kind of as a hobby on the side. But I was looking, you've got this great piece about Ariana Grande.
Yeah, she posted on her IG story too. Yeah,
and you got one about Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm interested. What's for you? What it intrigues you about writing about the huge pop cultural trends?
Well, I think like a big not problem, but I think like a lot of writers they have this intersection between journalism and the fiction that they want to create. And a lot of people straddle those lines. And I feel like as a teenager, I started doing music journalism, working in fashion, all these things. And I realized that, you know, I wanted to be creating the things and showing those things. And I think that when I go back to that place, it's for me to kind of groom my mind to think about what I'm questioning and what I'm thinking about, and it'll become an idea that really becomes fiction. Like something that I would really like give advice for a lot of writers is that if you have a good idea, please do not post it to your story and please do not tweet it. Use it as a seed to create a scene or make it bigger than 150 words or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and that's, an interesting place to stop, because I feel like that's what the lesson we keep getting from your literature is, if I may call it that, is that you're exposing or revealing the seeds of what's happening.
That's what I love to do. I love to expose the darkness to the sunlight, and they say that like Hercules held Hydra up to the sunlight, and that's how it melted. And that's what I want to do with my work. Thank you.
Great. So, and thank you all for being on Team Human. We've been coming to you alive from between the 18 miles of books at the Strand in New York City. You can get Alex Kazemi's New Millennium Boys wherever vile literature is sold. You've been on Team Human, our last best hope for peeps.